My name is Mia, 36 years old, and currently the CEO of a successful software company. The Oceanfront mansion I just purchased in California stands as a testament to my decade of relentless work. 10 years ago, my brother Jason cut me out of his life, calling me trash. Yesterday, he and his wife Sophia showed up at my gate, suitcases in hand, announcing they were moving in. I just smiled and pressed the button to lock the gate. Before I share my journey, let me know where you are watching from and hit like if you have ever been betrayed by family. I grew up in a middle-class suburban neighborhood outside of Chicago. Our house was nothing fancy, just a modest three-bedroom home with a small backyard where Jason and I would spend countless summer days playing catch and building makeshift forts. Jason was 4 years older than me, and from my earliest memories he was my hero. He had this confident smile and a way of making me feel safe even when our parents were fighting in the other room. Jason always looked out for me. When I was being bullied in 3rd grade by a girl named Vanessa who kept stealing my lunch, Jason, then in 7th grade, waited with me after school and firmly told her to stop. He did not threaten or intimidate, he just had this natural authority that made people listen. That was my brother, protective, but never cruel. Our parents, David and Marie, worked hard to provide for us. Dad was an accountant at a local firm, and Mom taught 2nd grade at the elementary school a few blocks from our house. They were good people who loved us, but they argued frequently about money and my father's long working hours. Despite the tension, our home was filled with love, and family dinners were mandatory every night. I remember Jason teaching me how to ride a bike when I was 6. He ran alongside me for hours, holding the back of the seat until I finally got the hang of it. When I made it all the way down the street without falling, the pride in his eyes made me feel like I had conquered the world. That is the brother I knew, growing up patient and kind. Our world shattered when I was 16 and Jason was 20. Our parents were driving home from their anniversary dinner when a drunk driver ran a red light and hit their car at full speed. They died instantly. I still remember the police officers standing at our door, their faces solemn as they delivered the news that changed our lives forever. Jason was attending the local community college at the time, studying business with plans to transfer to a 4-year university. After our parents died, he immediately dropped out to work full-time. He took a job as an assistant manager at a retail store, working long hours to keep a roof over our heads and food on the table. The life insurance money helped, but it was not enough to sustain us long-term. Overnight, my brother became my guardian, my parent, and my lifeline. I watched him age years in those first few months. The carefree smile replaced by worry lines that seemed permanently etched on his forehead. He never complained, but I saw the sacrifice he was making, the dreams he was putting on hold for me. I tried my best not to be a burden. I kept my grades up, took on household chores, and got a part-time job at a local cafe on weekends to help with expenses. I wanted Jason to know that his sacrifice was not in vain, that I was worth it. Every achievement of mine was dedicated to him, a small way of saying thank you for giving up his youth for me. When I was 19, and in my first year at the state university studying on a partial scholarship, Jason met Sophia. She came into the electronics store where he had been promoted to manager, looking for a new laptop. According to Jason, it was love at first sight. Within weeks, they were inseparable. Sophia was beautiful with long dark hair and an infectious laugh. She worked as a dental hygienist and seemed to bring light back into Jason's life. For that alone, I was grateful. The first few times we met, she was warm and friendly, asking about my studies and seeming genuinely interested in getting to know me. But as their relationship progressed, I began to notice subtle changes. Sophia would make small comments about how much Jason did for me, framing them as compliments, but with an undertone that made me uncomfortable. "It is so amazing how Jason sacrificed everything for you," she would say, her smile not quite reaching her eyes. "Not many brothers would do that." At first, I brushed it off as her way of praising Jason. But over time, these comments became more frequent and less subtle. When Jason and I would reminisce about our childhood or share inside jokes, Sophia would grow quiet, her body language closing off until Jason would notice and change the subject. I tried harder to connect with her, inviting her for coffee, asking about her interests, even offering to help plan surprise dates for her and Jason. Sometimes she would accept my overtures with genuine warmth, and I would think we were making progress. Other times, she would decline with a thin excuse, leaving me confused about where I stood with her. Jason was so obviously in love that he did not seem to notice the tension. Or if he did, he chose to ignore it, perhaps hoping it would resolve itself over time. I did not want to cause problems in his relationship, so I kept my concerns to myself, gradually spending less time at their apartment and creating space for their relationship to flourish. I told myself that it was natural that Jason deserved to build his own life after years of putting mine first. But deep down, I missed my brother and the closeness we once shared. I did not realize then how much more distant we would soon become. Jason proposed to Sophia after a year of dating. He called me, excitement bubbling in his voice, to share the news. I was truly happy for him, believing he deserved all the joy in the world after everything he had sacrificed for me. The engagement party was at an upscale restaurant downtown, with Sophia's large, extended family dominating the guest list. I sat at a table with distant cousins of hers who barely acknowledged my presence. The wedding was 6 months later, an elaborate affair at a country club that I knew must have cost a small fortune. I later learned that Sophia's parents had paid for most of it, something that seemed to both relieve and embarrass Jason. I was a bridesmaid, not the maid of honor, as I had secretly hoped. That position went to Sophia's sister Olivia, who made it clear she saw me as an afterthought in the wedding party. Throughout the ceremony and reception, I plastered on a smile, determined not to let anything dampen Jason's special day. But I could not shake the feeling of being an outsider looking in, watching my brother begin a new chapter that seemed to have less and less space for me. After the wedding, Jason and Sophia moved into a small but nice starter home in a developing neighborhood. I visited once for a housewarming dinner that felt stiff and formal, nothing like the comfortable gatherings Jason and I used to have. Sophia had decorated every inch of the house, with no traces of the memorabilia or photos from our childhood that Jason had previously displayed. Around this time, I began to develop a passion for computer programming. It started in an introductory class I took to fulfill a general education requirement, but I quickly found myself captivated by the logic and creativity involved in coding. I switched my major from general business to computer science, spending hours in the computer lab, working on projects beyond what was required for my classes. It was in the university programming club that I met Emma, a brilliant and outspoken junior who became my closest friend. Unlike many people in my life, Emma had no preconceived notions about me or my relationship with Jason. She accepted me exactly as I was, pushing me to develop my skills and believe in my abilities. During my sophomore year, I started experiencing unusual fatigue and persistent headaches. At first, I attributed it to stress and lack of sleep from balancing classwork with my part-time job. But when the symptoms worsened, Emma insisted I see a doctor. After several tests, I received the diagnosis. I had a rare kidney condition that would require ongoing treatment and potentially a transplant in the future. The news was devastating. Beyond the fear for my health, there was the practical concern of how I would afford treatment. My student health insurance covered some costs, but left significant gaps. I took on additional work tutoring programming to freshmen and working extra shifts at the cafe, stretching myself thin while trying to maintain my grades. I did not immediately tell Jason about my diagnosis. He and Sophia had just announced they were saving for a larger house, and I knew he would put that on hold if he knew about my medical bills. After everything he had already given up for me, I could not bear to be a burden again. So I kept it to myself, managing my medication schedule and doctor appointments between classes and work. The treatments left me exhausted. There were days when I could barely drag myself out of bed, when the thought of facing another lecture or work shift seemed impossible. On those days, Emma would bring me notes from classes I missed, and sometimes soup or homemade bread from her grandmother's recipes. My condition worsened midway through the semester, and I ended up in the hospital for 3 days after collapsing in the computer lab. The university administration was understanding, allowing me to take incomplete grades and finish my coursework over the summer. But the hospital stay added thousands to my already mounting medical debt. It was Emma who finally convinced me to call Jason. "He is your brother," she argued. "He would want to know." The phone call was brief and uncomfortable. Jason sounded shocked, then angry that I had kept my illness from him. He promised to visit the next day. When he arrived at my dorm room, Sophia was with him. She stood slightly behind him, her expression unreadable, as he hugged me and demanded to know all the details I had been hiding. I explained everything, downplaying the severity and financial strain as much as possible. "Why did not you tell me sooner?" Jason asked, hurt evident in his voice. "You have your own life now," I said. "You have done enough for me already." The conversation was interrupted when my phone rang with a call from my doctor's office. As I spoke with the nurse about adjusting my medication, I noticed Sophia whispering something to Jason, her eyes narrowed in my direction. After I hung up, the atmosphere in the room had subtly shifted. "So how much is all this costing?" Sophia asked bluntly. Before I could answer, Emma arrived with my textbooks from the library. She introduced herself cheerfully, but her smile faded as she sensed the tension. For the remainder of their visit, Sophia said little while. Jason seemed torn between concern for me and awareness of his wife's discomfort. In the weeks that followed, rumors began reaching me through mutual acquaintances. Sophia was telling people that I was exaggerating my condition for attention and financial support. According to her, I was playing on Jason's guilt and sense of responsibility, manipulating him, just as I supposedly had since our parents died. The accusations hurt more than the physical pain of my condition. I had spent years trying not to be a burden, working multiple jobs while maintaining a full course load, staying in cramped dorm rooms instead of asking to live with them. To be painted as a manipulative leech was both infuriating and heartbreaking. Emma urged me to confront them to clear the air before the situation deteriorated further, but I hesitated, worried that forcing the issue would only drive a deeper wedge between Jason and me. I chose, instead, to focus on my health and studies, hoping the rumors would eventually fade away. It was a decision I would come to regret. As my health stabilized with the new treatment regimen, I threw myself back into my studies with renewed determination. The programming projects that had once been a passionate hobby became my lifeline, a way to prove my worth not only to others but to myself. I spent countless hours in the computer lab, developing applications and honing my skills. The university announced a programming competition with a small scholarship as the prize. Without telling anyone, I entered with an application I had been developing since my diagnosis, a health tracking system for patients with chronic conditions. The app allowed users to monitor symptoms, medication effectiveness, and health patterns, generating reports that could be shared with healthcare providers. To my surprise and delight, I won first place. The scholarship was not large, only $5,000, but it covered a significant portion of my medical expenses for the semester. More importantly, the recognition validated my abilities and the direction I had chosen for my education. For the first time since my diagnosis, I felt a genuine sense of optimism about my future. Jason's 26th birthday was approaching, and despite our increasingly strained relationship, I wanted to do something special for him. Over the course of 3 months, I saved every extra dollar from my tutoring and cafe jobs, eventually accumulating enough to buy him a watch he had admired in a department store window. It was not luxury brand, but it was elegant and professional, the kind of accessory that would look perfect with the management position he had recently been promoted to. I wrapped the gift carefully and drove to Jason and Sophia's house for the birthday dinner they were hosting. Their new home was larger than the starter house, with a spacious dining room where about a dozen guests, mostly Sophia's friends and family, were gathered. Jason seemed genuinely happy to see me, pulling me into a warm hug that momentarily transported me back to simpler times. The evening progressed pleasantly enough, with polite conversation over a meal that Sophia had clearly put significant effort into preparing. I sat quietly contributing to discussions when addressed directly but otherwise, observing the dynamics of this world that had formed in my brother's life, a world where I was clearly an occasional visitor rather than a central figure. After dinner, as Jason began opening gifts, I felt a nervous anticipation. When he unwrapped my present, his face lit up with surprise and pleasure. "Mia, this is incredible," he said immediately, putting the watch on his wrist. "You should not have spent so much." I smiled, relieved, and happy that my gift had hit the mark. "You deserve it," I said simply. The moment of warmth was shattered seconds later when Sophia's voice cut through the room. "Speaking of expensive items," she said, her tone casual but her eyes hard, "has anyone seen my sapphire earrings? The ones my grandmother gave me? I cannot seem to find them anywhere." The question seemed innocent enough, but something in the way she looked directly at me as she asked it sent a chill down my spine. The conversation continued around us with various guests, suggesting places she might have left them. "The strange thing is," Sophia continued louder, now ensuring everyone could hear, "they were in my jewelry box last week, and the only person who has been in our bedroom since then is Mia when she used our bathroom earlier." The room fell silent. All eyes turned to me, and I felt my face grow hot with humiliation and shock. "What are you talking about?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Sophia maintained a look of regretful concern, as though she hated to bring this up, but felt she had no choice. "I am not accusing you of anything, Mia. I am just stating facts. The earrings were there, you were in our room, and now they are gone." Jason looked between us, confusion and discomfort evident on his face. "Sophia, I am sure there is another explanation. Mia would never." "Would never," what Jason Sophia interrupted. "Take something that does not belong to her. Like she has been taking your support, your time, your money for years. Face it, she has been using you since your parents died." The accusation hung in the air like poison gas. I could not breathe, could not think clearly through the roaring in my ears. The guests shifted uncomfortably, some averting their eyes, others watching with poorly disguised interest in the unfolding drama. "I did not take anything," I finally managed to say, my voice stronger, now fueled by the injustice of the accusation. "I used your bathroom and came right back downstairs. I never went near your jewelry." Sophia laughed, a sound entirely devoid of humor. "Right. Just like you never exaggerated your so-called condition to get Jason's sympathy and money. Some of us see through you, Mia. You are trash, using your own brother like an ATM while contributing nothing to this family. I looked to Jason hoping that he would defend me. Instead, he stood frozen, his expression unreadable. The silence stretched between us, growing heavier with each passing second. When he finally spoke, his words were not what I had desperately needed to hear. "Mia, did you take the earrings?" he asked, his voice low and serious. The fact that he even had to ask broke something inside me. "No, Jason. I would never steal from you or anyone else. How could you even think that?" "Then why are they missing?" Sophia demanded. "They were valuable, a family heirloom." "I do not know," I said, tears welling in my eyes, despite my effort to remain composed. "But I did not take them." "Enough," Jason said suddenly, his voice sharp. He turned to Sophia. "Are you absolutely certain they were in your jewelry box? Could you have worn them recently and forgotten?" For a brief moment I felt a surge of relief that he was questioning Sophia's story. But then she produced her phone, showing him something on the screen. "Here," she said. "A photo from 3 days ago. I am wearing them at Olivia's dinner party. And here is a text to my sister from yesterday morning saying I was planning to wear them tonight but needed to find the right outfit. They were in my jewelry box, Jason." Jason's face hardened. He turned to me, and the look in his eyes was one I had never seen before, a coldness that made me take a step back. "Mia, if you took them, just say so. We can handle this privately." "I did not take anything," I insisted, my voice rising with frustration and hurt. "Why would I steal from you after everything you have done for me? Why would I risk our relationship over a pair of earrings?" "What relationship?" Sophia interjected. "The one where you call whenever you need money. The one where you make Jason feel guilty for having his own life. That relationship." The argument escalated quickly. Guests began to awkwardly excuse themselves, slipping out the front door as our voices grew louder. Through my tears, I tried repeatedly to defend myself, to make Jason remember all the years of trust between us. But with each denial, Sophia became more insistent, her accusations more vicious. "You are nothing but a parasite," she hissed. "Jason gave up everything for you, and how do you repay him? By stealing from his wife. You are trash, Mia. Absolute trash." Something in Jason snapped at that moment. He slammed his fist into the wall beside me, the sound making me jump in fear. His face was contorted with a rage I had never seen before. "Get out," he said, his voice trembling with emotion. "Get out of our house right now. I cannot do this anymore. I am done." "Jason, please," I begged, unable to believe what was happening. "I am your sister. I would never steal from you." I said, "Get out," he shouted. "I do not want to see you anymore. I have done enough for you. We are finished." Stunned and shaking, I gathered my purse and car keys. As I moved toward the door, I looked back at my brother one last time, hoping to see some sign of the person who had taught me to ride a bike, who had held me while we both cried at our parents' funeral. But the man staring back at me was a stranger, his eyes cold and distant. "Do not call me," he said. "Do not contact me. We are done." I walked out into the night, got into my car, and somehow managed to drive through a blur of tears. 10 years of unwavering support and love had just been severed in an instant over a lie I could not disprove. The weight of that betrayal felt like it would crush me entirely. The days following Jason's birthday party passed in a haze of disbelief and pain. I returned to my cramped dorm room, but the space felt suffocating with the weight of what had happened. Emma, sensing something was terribly wrong, showed up at my door with coffee and sat patiently while I recounted the entire horrible evening through broken sobs. "You can stay with me," she offered, without hesitation. "My roommate moved out last month, and I have not found a replacement yet. The apartment is small, but there is room for both of us." I protested weakly, not wanting to impose, but Emma was insistent. 2 days later, I moved my meager belongings into her modest two-bedroom apartment near campus. The second bedroom was hardly larger than a closet, with just enough space for a twin bed and a small desk, but it was a sanctuary when I needed it most. The first few weeks were the hardest. I would wake up each morning with a momentary sense of normalcy before the reality of what had happened came crashing back. I tried calling Jason repeatedly, leaving voicemails pleading for a chance to talk things through. Each call went unanswered, and eventually I discovered he had blocked my number entirely. I even drove to his house once, desperate for a face-to-face conversation, but no one answered the door despite the cars in the driveway. As I turned to leave, I glimpsed Sophia watching me from an upstairs window, her expression unreadable before she let the curtain fall back into place. Depression settled over me like a heavy blanket. I struggled to attend classes, to complete assignments, to maintain the scholarships that were keeping me in school. The thought of losing my education, on top of losing my only family, was terrifying enough to push me through the motions, but my heart was not in it. Emma became my lifeline during those dark days. She would gently but firmly wake me when I overslept, bring me food when I forgot to eat, and sit with me through nights when sleep seemed impossible. Without her unwavering support, I might have given up entirely. "You cannot let them win," she would tell me firmly when I was at my lowest. "You cannot let them define who you are or what you are worth." Slowly, painfully, I began to rebuild my life around the gaping hole my brother's absence had left. I threw myself into my studies with renewed determination, channeling my hurt and anger into productive energy. If Jason believed I was nothing but a burden, a parasite, I would prove him wrong by becoming entirely self-sufficient. I took on more tutoring hours and picked up freelance coding projects, working on websites for local businesses to supplement my income. Every extra dollar went toward my medical expenses and building a small emergency fund. I lived frugally, cutting out any unnecessary expenses and learning to make the most of limited resources. My health condition required ongoing monitoring and medication, a constant reminder of the vulnerability I was determined to overcome. I became meticulous about managing my treatment, researching alternative therapies and lifestyle changes that might improve my prognosis. The health tracking app I had developed for the competition became my personal management tool, evolving with each new insight into my condition. 2 years after the fallout with Jason, I graduated with honors in computer science. Emma cheered loudly from the audience as I walked across the stage to receive my diploma. There was no family section for me to wave, to no proud older brother taking photos. But I held my head high nonetheless. This achievement was mine alone, earned through perseverance and resilience. Through a professor's recommendation, I secured a competitive internship at a small but innovative tech company specializing in healthcare applications. The position paid modestly, but it offered invaluable experience and the potential for growth. I moved into an even smaller apartment than the one I had shared with Emma, who had accepted a job in another state but promised to stay in touch. The internship was demanding with long hours and high expectations. I embraced the challenge, volunteering for additional projects and constantly seeking to expand my skills. My health tracking app, which I continued to refine in my spare time, caught the attention of my supervisor, who encouraged me to present it at a departmental meeting. That presentation changed the trajectory of my career. Among the attendees was Nathan Reynolds, a venture capitalist with a particular interest in healthcare technology. After the meeting, he approached me with thoughtful questions about the app's functionality and potential applications. "This has real commercial potential," he said, handing me his business card. I would like to discuss it further when you have time. Over coffee the following week, Nathan outlined what he saw as a significant market gap that my application could fill. Patients with chronic conditions need better tools to manage their health between doctor visits, he explained. Your personal experience gives you insight that most developers lack. Have you considered turning this into a business? The idea seemed far-fetched at first. I was barely keeping my head above water financially with student loans and ongoing medical expenses. How could I possibly start a company? But Nathan was persistent, pointing out various funding options and offering to connect me with potential mentors in the healthcare technology space. Think about it, he said, as we parted. You have something valuable here. Do not let it go to waste. His words stayed with me, planting a seed that grew slowly but steadily. Over the next several months, I researched the market, refined my concept, and developed a rudimentary business plan. When my internship ended with an offer for a full-time position, I made the difficult decision to decline and instead pursue my own venture. With Nathan's guidance, I secured a small amount of seed funding, enough to rent a tiny office space and cover basic expenses for 6 months. I lived on ramen noodles and coffee, working 16-hour days to build out the application into a full-featured platform. Every penny went into the business with nothing left for comfort or security. The first year was brutal. I faced technical challenges, regulatory hurdles, and market resistance. Twice I came within days of running out of money, entirely saved only by last-minute consulting projects that kept the lights on. My health suffered from the stress and long hours, leading to a brief hospitalization that drained my emergency fund and left me more determined than ever to succeed. During one particularly desperate period, when a critical server upgrade threatened to bankrupt the fledgling company, Emma flew in for a weekend visit. After seeing the state of my finances, she withdrew her entire savings, $5,000. She had been setting aside for graduate school, and insisted I take it. It is an investment, she said firmly when I protested. I believe in you and what you are building. Pay me back when you are a millionaire. Her faith in me, unwavering despite all evidence suggesting my venture was doomed to fail, gave me the courage to continue when quitting seemed like the only rational option. I plastered her handwritten note, "Future millionaire," keep going above my desk, a daily reminder of why failure was not an option. 3 years into my entrepreneurial journey, things began to shift. The healthcare tracking platform, which I had named HealthSync, had gone through multiple iterations based on user feedback and testing. What began as a simple symptom and medication tracker had evolved into a comprehensive health management system with predictive analytics and integration capabilities with major electronic health record systems. A breakthrough came when Dr. Linda Matthews, the head of chronic disease management at Northwestern Memorial Hospital, agreed to pilot HealthSync with a small group of kidney disease patients. The results exceeded everyone's expectations, with significant improvements in medication adherence and early intervention when warning signs appeared. This is exactly what we have been looking for, Dr. Matthews told me after reviewing the 6-month data. The ability to see patterns between appointments gives us a much more accurate picture of what is really happening with our patients. The pilot program expanded to include other departments, and word began to spread within the medical community. A feature article in a respected healthcare technology journal brought attention from hospitals across the country. Suddenly, I was fielding calls from institutional clients interested in enterprise-level implementations. To meet the growing demand, I needed to expand. I hired 3 developers, rented a larger office space, and brought on a sales director with healthcare industry experience. Each new hire was both exhilarating and terrifying, representing both growth potential and increased financial responsibility. The company grew steadily, adding new features and capabilities based on feedback from medical professionals and patients. We developed specialized modules for different chronic conditions, expanding beyond my original focus on kidney disease to include diabetes, heart disease, and autoimmune disorders. 5 years after founding the company, we secured our first major round of funding, $15 million, from a group of investors led by Nathan, who had remained a steadfast advisor and champion of the business. The influx of capital allowed us to accelerate product development and expand our market reach. By year 6, HealthSync had become a recognized name in healthcare technology. I was invited to speak at industry conferences, sharing insights about patient-centered design and the intersection of technology and healthcare. Magazine profiles described me as a healthcare tech innovator and one to watch in the digital health revolution. The irony was not lost on me that my greatest professional success had grown directly from my personal health struggles, the very things Sophia had accused me of exaggerating for attention and support. The condition that had once threatened to derail my life had become the foundation of a thriving business, helping thousands of patients better manage their health. As the company's success grew, so did my personal financial stability. I moved from my tiny apartment to a comfortable condo, bought a new car to replace the unreliable used model that had carried me through the lean years, and finally began addressing the mountain of medical debt I had accumulated. For the first time since my parents died, I felt truly secure. 7 years into building HealthSync, we received an acquisition offer from one of the largest healthcare technology companies in the country. After careful consideration and consultation with my leadership team, I decided to decline. HealthSync had become more than just a business to me. It was a mission, and I wasn't ready to relinquish control of its direction. Instead, we pursued another round of funding to fuel continued expansion. The company valuation reached $200 million, a number so far beyond my wildest expectations that it seemed almost unreal. My equity stake made me wealthy on paper, though I continued to live relatively modestly, reinvesting most profits back into the business. With financial security came improved health. I could afford the best specialists and treatments, no longer having to ration medication or postpone appointments due to cost concerns. My kidney function stabilized, and while I would always need monitoring and management, the immediate threat of serious decline had receded. After nearly a decade of nonstop work and sacrifice, I finally allowed myself to consider what personal success might look like beyond the business. Emma, who had remained my closest friend and had eventually joined HealthSync as Chief Operating Officer, encouraged me to find balance. "You have built something extraordinary," she said during a rare weekend when we both took time away from the office. "But what is it all for if you never enjoy it?" Her question lingered with me, prompting a period of reflection about what I truly wanted now that survival was no longer my primary concern. The answer came unexpectedly while I was visiting a potential client hospital in Southern California. Driving along the coast after the meeting, I passed a for sale sign in front of a stunning oceanfront property. On impulse, I called the listed realtor and arranged a viewing for the following day. The house was everything I had never allowed myself to dream of. A modern 3-story home with walls of glass facing the Pacific, multiple terraces, and a private path leading down to the beach. It was extravagant, unnecessary, and absolutely perfect. 2 months later, after negotiations and a thorough inspection process, I signed the papers, making the oceanfront mansion mine. It was the first truly indulgent purchase I had ever made, a symbol of how far I had come from the desperate young woman who had once counted pennies to afford medication. As I stood on the main terrace that first evening, watching the sun sink into the ocean in a blaze of orange and pink, I felt a complex mix of emotions. Pride in what I'd accomplished, gratitude for those like Emma and Nathan who had believed in me, but also a lingering sadness for the relationship with Jason that had been sacrificed along the way. Out of habit, I searched his name online, something I did every few months, despite knowing it only reopened old wounds. This time, unlike previous searches that yielded little, I found a recent article from a local Chicago business publication. It detailed the bankruptcy filing of a retail chain where Jason had been working as a regional manager. The article mentioned staff layoffs, including several executives. I wondered if Jason had been among those affected, how he and Sophia were coping if he had lost his job. Despite everything, I could not help but worry about my brother. But I had learned the hard way that some bridges once burned cannot be rebuilt. Or so I thought, until the day my security system alerted me to unexpected visitors at my gate. The security alert chimed just as I was finishing a video conference with our development team. Unidentified visitors at main gate, the automated message read, accompanied by a live video feed from the front entrance camera. Setting aside my laptop, I enlarged the video on my phone and felt the blood drain from my face. Standing outside my gate, looking directly into the camera, were Jason and Sophia. 10 years older than when I had last seen them, but unmistakable. Jason's hair was thinner with strands of gray at the temples, and his face appeared gaunt. The confident posture I remembered now, slightly stooped. Beside him, Sophia maintained her carefully put-together appearance, though her expression showed strain I had never seen before. My heart hammered against my ribs as conflicting emotions crashed through me. Shock that they had found me after all these years. Anger at the memories of that final devastating night. Curiosity about what could possibly have brought them to my door. And beneath it all, a small traitorous flicker of hope that perhaps finally they had come to make amends. For several minutes I simply watched them on the screen. They rang the intercom twice more, waiting, with increasing impatience between attempts. I could have ignored them, pretended I wasn't home, but some combination of morbid curiosity and a desire for closure pushed me to respond. I pressed the intercom button. Yes. My voice sounded steadier than I felt. Jason's head snapped up at the sound. Mia, is that you? His voice, transmitted through the security system, carried the same familiar timbre that had once represented safety and love. What do you want, Jason? I asked, not confirming or denying my identity, though it was obviously me. He shifted uncomfortably, glancing at Sophia before responding. We need to talk to you. Can we come in? About what it has been 10 years. I thought we were, as you put it, done. Please, Mia, he said, and I was surprised to hear a note of desperation in his voice. It is important. Against my better judgment, against Emma's explicit advice to never let toxic people back into your life, I decided to hear them out. But I would do it on my terms, maintaining the physical and emotional distance necessary to protect myself. Wait there, I said. I will come out. I took my time changing from my work-at-home outfit into a simple but elegant dress, applying light makeup and slipping on the understated diamond earrings that had been a gift to myself when HealthSync secured its major funding. My appearance shouldn't matter. I knew that, but I couldn't deny wanting them to see how well I had done without them. When I finally walked down the curved driveway to the gate, Jason's eyes widened slightly. Whatever he had expected, it wasn't the confident, successful woman who stood before him. I remained on my side of the gate, making no move to open it. Hello, Jason. Sophia. I nodded to each of them, keeping my expression neutral. What brings you here, after all this time, and how did you find me? Jason ran a hand through his thinning hair, a gesture so familiar it sent an unexpected pang through my chest. You are not exactly hiding, Mia. Your company has been in the news, and your purchase of this place made the real estate section of the Los Angeles Times. I waited silently for him to continue, refusing to make this easier for him. You look good, he offered awkwardly. Healthy. I am, I replied simply. The wonders of being able to afford proper medical care. Sophia shifted uncomfortably at this oblique reference to the past. She looked older than her years, I noticed. Fine lines of discontent etched around her mouth and between her brows. We have had some difficulties, Jason finally said, his voice dropping. I lost my job 8 months ago. The company went bankrupt, and there was no severance. I heard, I said. I am sorry about that. He looked surprised that I was aware of his situation. Well, I have been trying to find something comparable, but the retail sector is collapsing, and my experience does not seem to translate to other industries. We have been getting by on Sophia's income, but we lost the house, Sophia interjected suddenly, her voice sharper than her husband's. Time. The bank foreclosed last month. We have been staying with friends, but we have run out of options. I raised an eyebrow, beginning to see where this conversation was heading. That sounds difficult. I am still not clear on why you are here, though. Jason took a deep breath. We saw the article about your new house, how it has 6 bedrooms, and all this space, we thought. Well, we are family, Mia. We thought maybe we could stay here while we get back on our feet. Just for a few months until I find another position. The audacity of the request left me momentarily speechless. After a decade of silence, after the cruel way they had cast me out, they expected to simply move into my home as if nothing had happened. Family, I repeated the word, tasting bitter on my tongue. Is that what we are? Of course we are, Jason said, a hint of his old confidence returning. Nothing changes that. Blood is blood. Blood didn't seem to matter much when you called me trash and told me never to contact you again, I replied, my voice level, despite the emotion churning inside me. Sophia stepped forward, arms crossed defensively. That was a long time ago. People say things they don't mean when they are angry. 10 years is a long time to be angry, Sophia, I pointed out. I called. I wrote letters. I even came to your house once. You watched me from the window and didn't answer the door. Jason at least had the grace to look uncomfortable at this. We made mistakes, Mia. We all did. But right now we need help, and you are in a position to provide it. The upstairs guest suite would be perfect, Sophia added, startling me with her presumption. The one with the ocean view that was featured in the magazine spread. We would stay out of your way, of course. I stared at her, wondering if she truly didn't understand the magnitude of what she was asking of the hurt they had caused. So, let me make sure I understand, I said slowly. You accused me of stealing? Called me trash? Cut me out of your lives for a decade while I struggled with illness and poverty, and now you want to live in my oceanfront mansion because you have fallen on hard times. When you put it like that, it sounds terrible, Jason said, frowning. But that's all in the past. We should move forward. Move forward, I repeated. Without acknowledging what happened? Without an apology? Fine, I am sorry, Sophia said, the words coming out clipped and insincere. Is that what you want to hear? I am sorry. Now can we discuss the living arrangements? We have suitcases in the car. Her attitude ignited a slow-burning fury in me. What exactly are you sorry for, Sophia? For accusing me of theft? For calling me trash? For turning my only family against me when I was sick and vulnerable? Look, it was a misunderstanding, she said, glancing away. I was upset about the earrings. A misunderstanding, I echoed. Did you ever find those earrings, by the way? Sophia's gaze darted to Jason and back to me. No, but that is not relevant now. It seems pretty relevant to me, I insisted. You destroyed my relationship with my brother over those earrings. They were my grandmother's. Sophia snapped. They were valuable and sentimental. I was upset. So upset that you accused me without evidence. So upset that you told people I was faking my illness for attention. I never said that. She protested, but her expression gave her away. You did, I said quietly. And people told me. Do you have any idea what it's like to be sick, scared, and alone? And then hear that your own family is telling people you are making it all up. Jason stepped in, clearly uncomfortable with the direction of the conversation. Mia, please. Whatever happened in the past, we need help now. You have done well for yourself. This house is massive. Surely you can spare some space for family in need. Where was this concern for family when I needed help? I asked. Where was this generous spirit when I was working 3 jobs to pay for medication and tuition? When I was living on ramen noodles and pulling all-nighters to keep my scholarship? That was different, Jason argued. You were young in school. It was a natural struggle everyone goes through. Being abandoned by my only family while dealing with a serious medical condition was not a natural struggle, I countered. It was the result of choices. You made choices that hurt me deeply. Are you really going to punish us now just because you are bitter about the past? Sophia demanded, her facade of politeness cracking. Because you have money now and we do not. This isn't about money, I said. This is about respect, trust, and accountability, none of which you have shown. So, you are just going to turn us away? Jason asked, disbelief coloring his voice. Leave your own brother homeless, out of spite. I never said that, I replied. But I am not inviting people who have shown zero remorse into my home to take advantage of me again. Again, Sophia's voice rose. When did we ever take advantage of you, Jason? Sacrificed everything for you after your parents died. Everything. His education, his career, prospects, his youth. And this is how you repay him. I was grateful for everything Jason did, I said, keeping my voice steady. I worked hard not to be a burden. I got scholarships, jobs, did everything I could to stand on my own. And when I finally needed help, when I was sick and scared, you convinced him I was manipulating him. You turned him against me over a pair of earrings that, let me guess, probably turned up eventually. Sophia's expression flickered, and in that moment, I knew. They did turn up, didn't they? I pressed. Where were they, Sophia? That is not important, she insisted. But Jason turned to her with a questioning look. Sophia, he asked, what is she talking about? Sophia shot me a venomous look before responding. Fine. I found them a few weeks later. They had fallen behind the dresser. But that doesn't change the fact that at the time, I genuinely thought they were stolen. And you never thought to tell Jason that, to reach out and admit you were wrong, to apologize to me for accusing me of theft and destroying my relationship with my brother? It was too late by then, she said defensively. Things had been said, lines had been crossed. Lines you drew, I pointed out. Lines that cost me my only family during one of the hardest periods of my life. Jason looked between us, a dawning realization spreading across his features. You found the earrings and never told me, he asked Sophia. All this time I thought, it doesn't matter now, Sophia said quickly. That was ages ago. We have real problems now, Jason. Focus. It matters to me, I said quietly. It mattered when I was alone in a hospital room, wondering if I would be able to afford the treatment I needed. It mattered when I had no one to call, when my business was on the verge of bankruptcy. It mattered during every holiday I spent alone, while you two were playing happy family. If you are so successful now, why does any of this still matter? Sophia demanded. unless you are just being petty and vengeful. Wanting accountability isn't petty, I replied, and expecting an actual sincere apology before considering helping someone who hurt you isn't vengeful, it is self-respect. Fine, Jason said, frustration evident in his voice. We are sorry, truly sorry. Is that enough? Will you help us now? I studied my brother, searching for the genuine remorse I needed to see. Instead, I found impatience and entitlement the apology, clearly a means to an end rather than a true acknowledgement of the pain they had caused. If you were truly sorry, I said softly, you wouldn't be asking what my help would cost you. You would be offering your apology freely, without expectation of reward. The fact that you see it as a transaction tells me everything I need to know. So, you are just going to leave us with nothing? Jason asked, anger creeping into his tone. After everything I did for you growing up? After I gave up my future to raise you? That is cold, Mia. Selfish and cold. His words stung, but I refused to let them penetrate the armor I had built over years of self-reliance. I never asked you to give up your future, Jason. I would have gone into foster care if necessary. You chose to become my guardian, and while I was, and am grateful for that, it doesn't give you the right to hurt me, and then expect me to welcome you with open arms a decade later, when you need something. This is ridiculous, Sophia huffed. We knew you would be like this, holding grudges, playing the victim. Some things never change. You are right, Sophia, I agreed. Some things never change. Like your inability to take responsibility for your actions. Like your willingness to manipulate situations to your advantage regardless of who gets hurt. I turned to Jason, feeling a profound sadness beneath my resolve. I loved you, Jason. You were my hero, my protector, my family. And you threw me away based on an accusation that wasn't even true. Now you are here not because you missed me or regretted your choices, but because you need something from me. That isn't love or family. That is opportunism. You are being unfair, Jason insisted. We did not come here just for a handout. We came because we are family, and families help each other. Families also respect each other, I countered. They apologize sincerely when they hurt each other. They make amends. They don't show up after 10 years of silence expecting to be welcomed as if nothing happened. I looked at the two people standing outside my gate, feeling a strange sense of calm replace the tumultuous emotions I had experienced minutes earlier. In their faces, I could see not just the decade that had passed, but the fundamental character that time had only made clearer. They had not changed, but I had. With quiet resolve, I pressed the button on my phone that locked the security gate more firmly. The soft click carried a finality that seemed to surprise Jason and Sophia. I am not the desperate, vulnerable young woman you discarded 10 years ago, I said, my voice steady and clear. I am not trash. I never was. And I will not be treated as such, not even by people who share my blood. So that is it. Jason demanded, anger finally overtaking his calculated appeal. You have this massive house, and you will not help your own brother. I did not say I would not help you, I clarified. I said I would not allow you to move into my home and continue the same unhealthy patterns that destroyed our relationship in the first place. I opened my wallet and removed a business card. This is the contact information for a financial advisor who specializes in helping people rebuild after bankruptcy. I will pay for 3 months of counseling with her. She can help you develop a sustainable plan moving forward. I slid the card through the gate. Jason made no move to take it, but Sophia snatched it up, examining it with a mix of disbelief and disdain. I will also pay for a week at the extended stay hotel down the coast while you figure out your next steps, I continued. It is clean, comfortable, and will give you space to work with the financial advisor. A hotel, Sophia repeated incredulously. You think a week in a hotel solves anything? It solves your immediate housing crisis, I pointed out. The rest is up to you, the same way my future was up to me when you both abandoned me. This is not what family does, Jason insisted, his face flushed with anger or shame, perhaps both. Family doesn't cut someone off for 10 years and then expect to be welcomed with open arms when they need something, I replied. Family doesn't call someone trash and then demand their assistance. Family respects boundaries and takes responsibility for their actions. That is what I am doing right now, setting healthy boundaries and taking responsibility for my own well-being. You have changed, Jason said, and I couldn't tell if it was an accusation or an observation. Yes, I agreed. I have. Necessity and hardship will do that. But my core values haven't changed. I still believe in helping others, in compassion, in second chances. But I also believe in self-respect and accountability. I took a step back from the gate. My offer stands. A week at the hotel and 3 months with the financial advisor. If you want to rebuild our relationship, that will take time, honesty, and genuine remorse, not demands and entitlement. The choice is yours. Jason stared at me for a long moment, a complex mix of emotions crossing his face. For a fleeting second, I thought I saw a glimmer of the brother I had once known and loved, a hint of recognition of the pain he had caused. But then Sophia pulled at his arm. Let's go, she said. She is clearly not interested in helping family. We will figure something out ourselves. Take the hotel, Jason, I said softly. It does not mean you are giving up your pride. It means you are accepting help that is offered with clear boundaries. He hesitated, visibly torn. Finally, he nodded once, a curt, almost imperceptible movement. The hotel, but this conversation is not over, Mia. It never really began, I replied. A real conversation would involve listening, understanding, and genuine remorse. When you are ready for that, you know where to find me. They walked back to their car, a modest sedan, with California rental plates, loaded with what appeared to be hastily packed suitcases. As they drove away, I felt a weight simultaneously lift from and settle onto my shoulders. The paradoxical lightness of standing my ground, and the heaviness of knowing that some wounds may never fully heal. In the month that followed, I received a terse text from Jason confirming they had checked into the hotel. I arranged for the financial advisor to contact them, directly removing myself as the intermediary. According to her discreet updates, they attended 2 sessions before Sophia refused to continue, though Jason returned for a third on his own. 5 weeks after their appearance at my gate, I received an email from Jason. Unlike our confrontation, his written words carried a thoughtfulness that suggested he had been reflecting on our interaction. I have been thinking about what you said, he wrote, about accountability and genuine remorse. I realize now that I never truly faced the hurt I caused you. It was easier to believe Sophia's version of events, to cast you as the problem, rather than acknowledge my own failure as your brother and protector. The truth is, I was overwhelmed by the responsibility of raising you, resentful of the sacrifice, and Sophia's accusations gave me an excuse to walk away from that burden. It was wrong, and I am truly sorry. He went on to explain that he and Sophia had separated. He had found a job at a small electronics store, modest compared to his previous management position, but steady income nonetheless. He was staying in a small apartment, and for the first time in years, reflecting on the choices that had led him to this point. I do not expect forgiveness, his email concluded. I do not even expect a response. But I wanted you to know that your words that day at the gate made me see myself clearly for the first time in a decade. Whatever happens next, thank you for that clarity. I read the email several times, feeling the slow, tender unfurling of possibility where I had thought only scar tissue remained. I did not respond immediately, allowing myself time to process my own complex emotions. Forgiveness, I was learning, could not be rushed or forced. It had to grow naturally, from understanding and acceptance, like a delicate plant pushing through concrete. 2 weeks later, I suggested meeting for coffee at a neutral location. Jason arrived early, nervous, but present in a way he had not been at my gate. We talked for hours, peeling back layers of hurt, misunderstanding, and regret. It was painful, raw, and occasionally uncomfortable, but also strangely healing, like cleaning a wound that had been festering for too long. We did not emerge from that conversation with our relationship magically restored. Trust once shattered could only be rebuilt slowly, one small piece at a time. But we did emerge with a tentative path forward, an agreement to continue honest conversations and a mutual recognition of both our shared history and our separate journeys. As my company continued to thrive, I found myself reflecting on the strange, painful road that had led me to success. The illness that had once seemed like a curse had become the inspiration for a business that helped thousands. The betrayal that had left me alone had forced me to discover my own strength and resilience. The brother who had abandoned me was now cautiously finding his way back, changed by his own failures and struggles. In honor of this journey, I established a scholarship fund for students facing medical challenges, providing the support I had so desperately needed during my own education. Emma now, my business partner, as well as my closest friend, helped design the application process to identify students with both significant need and promising potential. The first cohort of scholarship recipients included a young woman with a kidney condition remarkably similar to my own. Watching her confidence grow as the financial burden of treatment lifted, I felt a sense of completion, of turning full circle from recipient of pain to creator of healing. My oceanfront home, once a symbol of solitary achievement, gradually became a place of connection. I hosted gatherings for employees, friends, and eventually a carefully rebuilding relationship with Jason. The walls that had once protected me from further hurt slowly transformed into boundaries that were strong yet permeable, allowing me to choose who and what I welcomed into my life. The most profound lesson I learned through this decade-long journey was not about success or revenge or even forgiveness. It was about the power of self-worth. When Jason and Sophia arrived at my gate that day, they expected to find the same vulnerable young woman who had believed herself worthless without her brother's approval. Instead, they found someone who had learned to value herself, to set boundaries, and to require respect from others. True healing, I discovered, does not come from external validation or even from forgiveness alone. It comes from rebuilding your sense of self after it has been shattered, from learning that your worth is inherent and not dependent on others' perceptions. The mansion, the successful company, the financial security, these were all meaningful achievements. But my greatest accomplishment was the internal mansion I had built. A solid foundation of self-respect that no one could ever take away. As I write this from my terrace overlooking the Pacific, I am reminded that life rarely follows the path we expect. Pain can become purpose. Rejection can lead to resilience. And sometimes the family we build through choice can be stronger than the one we are born into. The ocean below me constantly changes waves, rebuilding themselves after crashing against the shore. A continuous cycle of destruction and renewal that mirrors our human journey through hardship to healing. What about you? Have you ever had to stand firm in your self-worth against people who once hurt you? Did you find it difficult to set boundaries with family members? Share your experiences in the comments below and let me know if my story resonated with you. If you found value in what I have shared today, please like and subscribe to support more stories of resilience and transformation. Remember, your worth is not determined by those who failed to see it, but by your courage to honor it, regardless. Thank you for joining me on this journey, and I wish you strength in your own path to healing.